You can buy a bag about, oh yay, this big for what, $2.98 or so. An equal amount of chocolate packaged in a gold box with a ribbon on top called Godiva, an equal amount in weight, would sell for about $35 or $40. Why would people pay 10 times as much for the same amount of chocolate? And the answer is people buy Hershey's to eat, they buy Godivas to give. I mean, when was the last time you bought yourself a $40 box of Godiva and ate it on the way home? People don't do that. That's what branding is all about. You know, some people have brand awareness. That is no big deal. Just to have people know about you is not a big deal. That's called brand awareness. I am fully aware of many a brand in America. I do not purchase that brand. I do not invest my money in that brand. And I suspect the same is true of you. Then you have brand preference. That's cool. We want people to prefer us over all others. But when you have brand insistence in your life, when people will drive out of their way, when people will go out of their way to choose you and insist on doing business with you, that, my friends, is the ultimate in branding and positioning. How do we position ourselves in an already cluttered and competitive and ever-changing marketplace? Well, first and foremost, it seems to me, we position ourselves with our self-esteem. Oh, how I thank my fourth grade educated mother, who taught me that being poor is a temporary condition, who taught me that all things matter about how you feel about yourself. But if you feel about yourself well without earning it, that would be called conceit. But if you work hard at feeling good about yourself based on merit and learning and ever growing, that would be called self-esteem. We first and foremost, my dear friend, position ourselves with our self-esteem. Self-esteem asks this question: how do I feel about me? You know, the number one sale you and I have to make is we're going to sell ourselves to ourselves. Number two sale we have to make in life is to sell ourselves to other people. But first, I got to sell me to me. Second way we position ourselves is with our appearance. Appearance answers this question: when someone looks at me, what do they see? When someone looks at you, what do they see? Do they see someone learned or someone ignorant? Someone committed or someone tentative? A team player or a disruptive person? What do they see? Regretfully, in the first 10 seconds, people see us or meet us. They make impressions of us that may last for the longest of periods of time. Thirdly, we position ourselves with our words. Words are ever so important. Don't use words like I think or I might or I'll try. Use words like I believe, I will, you can depend on me. I had a guy working with me one time. Every time I'd give him an assignment, he'll answer me by saying, I think I might be able to try. You can't build a business with a person like that on your team. Then you position yourself with your focus. I still meet people every day who are focused. Focus on generating income. How incredibly crazy is that? And yet every day I meet men and women who are focused on generating value. Dear friend, you generate value. Income is the byproduct of value delivered. The smartest people I know who generate value have also mastered the art of interpreting the value. And the only way to interpret value is to see it from the perspective of the receiver of that value. What matters to them, what's in it for them. And of course we position ourselves with our attitude. The older I get, the more I recognize the happiest people, the most successful people, just have great attitudes. They just get up in the morning feeling good about life. Get up in the morning singing praises that they are alive, that they can walk and talk, and that they are professionally engaged, that they have friends and they have a brain, and they can apply all of that for the common good. Here's a cute story about attitude. This guy's flying from Pittsburgh to Atlanta. It was a Friday night. They didn't serve much on the plane. It was just a sandwich for dinner. Everybody ate their sandwich, grateful to God they had something to partake and to take care of their soul, except this guy. He had to reach up above him in the ceiling of the plane, you know, where there was a bell, ring, ring, ding, 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 ring, ring, ding, till the flight attendant came running down the aisle. She said, "Sir, have we an emergency here today?" He said, "Yes." He said, "This is a bad sandwich." And the flight attendant, without flinching, picked up the sandwich with her left hand, took one look at it, and she went, "Bad sandwich, bad sandwich." Now, I don't know about you, but I'm telling you, if I were on that plane, I don't care how tired or busy I may have been, I would have been the last guy to get off that plane. I would have wanted to interview that flight attendant. I would have wanted to say to her, "Ma'am, you got to tell me what entered your mind when the jerk of a passenger was so nasty with you." I would have wanted to say to her, "Ma'am, in all my living days, personally, I have never seen a sandwich punished before." Can't you hear her now? She'd say, "Oh, sir, I met all kinds of passengers. I have seen all kinds of people. I could have just as easily said to this guy, 'You don't like this sandwich, sir? Well, let me tell you what you can do with this sandwich. You don't like our airline? We don't need your business. You don't like this flight? See the exit sign right there?" But she'd say, had I told him any or all of that, I'd have dragged myself back to the galley. My friends would have said to me, "What are you so upset about?" And I would have said, "I hate this job. Thank God it's Friday. I can't wait till I retire. I've had it with all these passengers and their quirky demands." Instead, can't you see this woman running down the aisle, holding back her laughter? She gets to the galley. Her friend said, "What in the world are you laughing about?" She'd say, "You won't believe what I just did to the dude in 21C. They'd say, "What did you do to the dude in 21C? She'd say, "I just beat the heck out of his sandwich." Nothing ever replaces attitude. Your attitude displayed on the outside of you is the precise exclamation, explanation, and commentary on the person who resides on the inside of you. So we have to go beyond communicating to connecting. We have to go beyond selling to positioning. And we have to go beyond training. If I were king for a day, I would have every company in America change the name of its training department from training department to education and development, or development and education. Let me attempt to make some distinctions for you. In my life, I chose to go from training to education. Friend, education is what's left over when all the training is long forgotten. Now, don't misunderstand me. The most unfair thing on the face of this earth is for you to expect someone in your employ to do something you have not trained them to do. For compliance purposes, for consistency purposes, and other reasons too, we must train people to do that which is technical and transactional. That's a given. What I'm saying is that's not enough. Just like communicating and selling alone without connecting and positioning are not enough. So we have to go from training to education. When you train someone, you show them the how. When you educate someone, you teach them the why. The person who knows the how will always have a job. The person who understands the why will always be their boss. When you train someone, you show them what to do. When you educate someone, you teach them how to be. When my kids' school teaches our children how to count, that would be called training. When my wife and I teach our children what counts, that, my friend, is called education. So I walked in a McDonald's one day to buy something, attractive young lady behind the counter looks at me and says, "Sir, how may I serve you today?" I said, "I'd like to have a vanilla milkshake and an apple pie." She said, "Sir, would you like a dessert to go with that?" I said, "Sure, throw in a Big Mac and 2 fries, will ya?" And one has to beg the simple question, what went wrong? And we know the answer, we know the answer. The answer is we trained them in the mechanical and the transactional. We did not educate them in the emotional and the transformational. And in so doing, we denied ourselves the competitive stance of being head and shoulders above most other competitors. Now, I know what some of you are thinking: training, education. Foreign boy comes to America, learns our language, shows up to sort of confuse us with some semantical differences about these words. Okay, I love a challenge. Let me ask you a question, and then I will simply rest my case. Which would you rather your teenager get? Sex education or sex training? I rest my case. To be educated, you got to do 4 things. You have to have a clear vision. You have to have a solid strategy. You have to pursue practical systems. And you have to commit yourself to consistent execution. Violate one of the 4. Education somehow will be deleted or diluted in its impact and its substance. And one last thing I've had to do in my own life, I believe could be very useful for you, is I've had to make the choice to travel the distance from success to significance. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I discovered that success by any measure is secular. Significance by any measure is spiritual. And it doesn't matter how you define your own spirituality. What does matter is that those things that are spiritual tend to be deeper, more meaningful, more touching, more lasting, more impactful in our lives. So when we talk about success, we talk about the 3 F's of achieving. You know the 3 F's of achieving? Fans, fame, fortune. I have my fans, I have my fame, I have my fortune. I, therefore, must be a successful person. How empty is such an existence? But people who subscribe to significance subscribe to this notion called appreciating. Appreciating. The 3 F's of appreciating are your faith, your family, and your friends. And friend, when you have all 3, I ask you simply, what else? Really, 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 what else do you need in your life? People who speak of success talk about giving back. You've heard him say, this community has been good to me, I must give back. My alma mater has been good to me, I must give back. Giving back is no big deal. Giving back implies you owe something to someone. It is your duty to give it back. You borrow money from the bank, you give it back, principal and interest on a certain timeline. That is your duty. You better do it or they'll repossess your home or your car. Significance speaks of giving. Merely giving. William Barclay, the Scottish theologian, said something that's been an absolute mantra in my life. William Barclay said, always give without remembering. Always receive without forgetting. Oh, wow. Giving is like loving. You don't love your children back because they loved you first. You love your children even when your children are unlovable. So merely give. Be in the zone of significance. I do not know what success is. I do know it is not enough. And I also know that I've never met a person who is both successful and happy, truly happy, who got there by deceiving other people. I've met a lot of happy people. I've met a lot of successful people, but never one who's successful and happy who got there by deceiving others. Sort of violates the law of integrity and all else we've talked about here so far. So success is not that important. Significance is having someone you love and someone who loves you. Having some purposeful work in which you can lose yourself. Purposeful work that could help other people. Having somewhere to be that brings you joy and brings you satisfaction and brings you purpose. Some people, as you know, live the life at the task level every day. They go to work, they do all the things they have to do, come home, drink a beer, burp, go to sleep, get up the next morning, repeat the process all over again. Some people set their goals and they very carefully work those goals. But the happiest people I have ever met, the most significant people I've ever met, are the ones who live their life at the purpose level. Occasionally I will ask an audience this question: if you had 6 months to live, how would you spend the last 6 months of your life? Because the answer that you would give us for this question will tell us a lot about what it is that you value in your own life. I had a smart alecky guy the other day say to me, he said, if I had 6 months to live, I'd tell you what I would do. I said, what's that, sir? He said, if I had 6 months to live, I'd move in with my mother-in-law. Because he said that would be the longest 6 months. There was this guy who had a little dime store, the corner of Elm and Commerce. It's a little store. He's a good man. His prices were fair. His location was strategic. He was honest. People began to talk about him. He had more customers. He expanded his store. He had more stores from border to border and coast to coast. He built his chain of stores. One day he was taken ill to the hospital and he wanted one of his 3 adult children to become the president of the company, and he knew not which one should become the president of this company. So he called all 3 of his adult children into the hospital room and he said to them, one of the 3 of you will take over the reins of this company. I know not which one it would be, so here's what I choose to do. He reached in his pocket and he took out 3 $1 bills and he gave son number 1 $1, son number 2 $1, and daughter number 3 $1. And he said, go downtown today, spend your money any way that you choose. But when you come back here tonight, however you spent this money must fill this room from corner to corner, must fill this room. Excited as they were, they all went, they all spent their money, they all came back in the evening. And the daddy said, what did you do with your money? And son number 1 said, Daddy, I went out to see my friend whose family has a big barn on this big farm. I gave him my $1. He gave me 2 bales of hay. He brought in those bales of hay into the hospital room, tore them apart, threw the hay up in the sky, and momentarily the room was filled. But we all know what happens to hay. Tumbled down, settled on the floor, and the daddy said, no, sir. Son number 2, what have you done with your $1? Son number 2 said, Daddy, I went down to Sears and Roebuck, where they had a sale on pillows made with feathers. I gave the clerk my $1. He gave me a pillow. He brought in the pillow. He tore it open. He took the feathers. He threw them up in the sky. And momentarily the room was filled. But much like the hay, the feathers tumbled down, settled on the floor. And the daddy said, no, sir. Daughter number 3, what have you done with your $1? Oh, she said, Dad, I took my $1 to a store like the one you had years ago. I gave the owner this paper $1, and I asked him for some currency, some coins, quarters, dimes, nickels. I took 50 cents of that dollar and I invested in something very worthwhile, just like the Holy Bible says, invest thine talents. I took 20 cents of my dollar and I gave it to my house of worship. I took 10 cents of my dollar, gave it to the Boy Scouts of America, 10 cents to the Girl Scouts of America, and Daddy, you added all up and left me one dime, 10 tiny little pennies. And with those 10 tiny little pennies, Daddy, I went back to the store, gave the man my money, and I bought two things. She reached in one pocket and she took out a little matchbook. She reached in the other pocket and she took out a little candle. She struck the match. She lit the candle. She turned the light switch off. And the room was full. The room was completely full. Not with hay, not with feathers, but with light. You are the light of the world. What you do in your business, in your life, with your family, in your community, can light up the biggest of stadiums in the pitchness of darkness. Or can do something less than that, but it is always your choice. Do not, dear friends, fall for the myth of success. Stand tall and choose wholeheartedly the promise of significance. And when you do that, you're richer, and all about you and around you, in this the land of the free and home of the brave, become richer. Thank you, and God bless you.
We hope you've enjoyed this special presentation of Nito Cubane's How to Get Anything You Want, Proven Strategies for Success and Significance. If you'd like to own a copy of this program or any of Better Life Media's programs, please visit our website at betterlifemedia.com, where you'll find all types of valuable life improvement information.
You're richer, and all